Hey folks, this is the Massachusetts Pirate Party Pirate News, and I am joined by Joe, Malt, and Steve. How are you all, guys?
I'm
Doing good.
better every day. Baby steps.
I'm not dead yet.
Oh, back in my day. So we got a lot more is happening. This is kind of feeling like a 2020 type deal where there's plenty to talk about every week. But at least let's start off today with something that's really good, where we have a new law protecting personal data, a small victory, silver linings. Um, I believe, Jamie, you know more about that than I do.
Yeah, so EPIC, the Electronic Privacy Information Center, reported that the Massachusetts legislature enacted a new law that prevents Massachusetts transit authorities such as the MBTA and PBTA and other transit authorities from disclosing personal information related to the individual's transit system use for non-transit purposes, and requires police obtain a search warrant before accessing personal data collected by authorities. This apparently resolves some of the issues raised in Commonwealth versus Zachary, which was pending before the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, in which the government obtained without a warrant, location data generated by the defendant's use of an MBTA transit card. However, the legislature passed it quite strongly, actually. It was 46 yeas to 0 nays in the House and 39 yeas to 1 nay in the Senate. However, some of it was signed in part by Governor Baker, but he also used a pocket veto to modify the bill. So it's not absolutely clear to me, at least from reading this. The link of some of the changes kind of goes away or goes off to a 404 page. But it looks like it passed, but even if it was vetoed, the legislature has, the 2/3 that they need clearly to put that back in if they so choose.
Now, so it looks like it's protecting personal data, which is always a major prior issue. And there's been some other things popping up about like different things to protect yourself too, like the Brave browser, for example, or the IPFS.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, IPFS is the Interplanetary File System. It is a peer-to-peer file system over the internet, and you can easily go to their like ipfs.io and download the software and be able to peer either your own content or your own files or other people's files. And so they now have interoperability with the Brave browser, which is based on Chrome. That's an open source browser that has like a Bitcoin wallet in it and a bunch of other privacy features. But now you can access IPFS resources from within the Brave browser, not just using the IPFS tools.
So can you tell us a little bit more? I'm still not familiar fully with where Brave browser is. Is that like more like a torrent browser, or is it more? You said it was based on Chrome, right?
It is based on Chrome. One of their points is you were able to go to and use other BitTorrent addresses, and they would just resolve that within the browser and pull in the little bits that you would get of the file to be able to download it. So that was kind of built in, and that was one of their usability features. And so now they're also adding in IPFS support, so you can be able to go to an IPFS address and be able to download and peer. I think you can peer once you've downloaded it, then you can peer and share it with other people requesting it as well. Assuming it's still in your browser. Probably if you close that browser tab, you're no longer peering. But, anyways.
So all really, really good things, constructive and useful.
Right. Especially for being able to share things across the internet in a decentralized manner.
Like information, or when cops, or when legislation tries to push through terrible laws, like that gang one. Mo, would you be able to tell me a little bit more about that gang lingo?
So, prosecutors in Arizona have started claiming that the slogan ACAB, all cops are bastards, is like a gang slogan in order to pump up the charges they're hitting leftist protesters with. And in the same frickin' week, prosecutors are saying that they're probably not going to charge a lot of the Capitol insurrectionists because, it would clog up the legal system. They don't have the resources to charge everybody, which is bullshit. So, yeah.
I mean, you do have a point in terms of like mass incarceration. The United States has the most prisoners on the planet and the most prisoners per, people, the highest incarceration rate in the planet. So it does seem to kind of go against the grain to say, well, we're arresting too many people.
Yep. Nope, it's bullshit. Like they had way less trouble tracking down progressive protesters through things like Etsy purchase records. They didn't really have to do a lot of open source investigations on progressive protesters because the police are a facet of white supremacy, and that is why we cannot use June 6th as an excuse to give them more power, because they have all the power they need to arrest everyone who trashed the Capitol building, but they're choosing not to use it because law enforcement is not a neutral institution.
I mean,
Right. I mean, the gang, the using, being able to identify people by supposedly gang phrases or things like that, and then, which is bad enough, but then to go and take peaceful protesters and twist that awful law to use it to go after peaceful protesters is just kind of amazing. But, it really is par for the course for this country.
I mean, it's gonna just be, they're just gonna bellyache when the other side uses it against them. Just whenever you ban speech or ban something that's not actually causing incitement, or causing irreparable harm or immediate threat to life, the things that are actually banned in speech, or at least not protected in speech, it's just when you start pushing and start taking away all the different words, I'd rather have people who are angry at me open their mouth and let me know what idiots they are.
I think George Carlin had a routine about that.
He did. Oh my God, rest his soul.
Out of curiosity, have either of you guys ever been the target of an alt-right Twitter hate campaign?
I've been the target of many hate campaigns, not necessarily in Twitter on that platform, but many in person.
I assure you, it is an entirely different experience. Not a particularly pleasant one. I think one of the facts that gets away from this debate is that when we talk about the things that we accept as banned, like incitement for insurrection, the Republicans who are getting banned are doing those things. Like it's not even that they're violating company policy at Twitter. They are abusing the freedom of speech they have to protect a white supremacist system. So, like getting into debates about is this free speech? Is this not? Is like basically it's doing their work for them because it legitimizes what they're saying as persecuted speech instead of just like unacceptable drivel.
Well, there's one of the things that I got a chuckle out of recently. Listening to the radio, and they're interviewing people about their thoughts on the elections, and one fellow was really unhappy with the use of the word coup to describe what happened at the Capitol, a week before, or a couple of weeks ago. And he's going on, you can't just take a word and change its meaning like that. So out of curiosity, I pulled out a dictionary. You know what the word definition, and the definition there was basically, an overthrow of the government by force, typically by a small group of people for the purposes of changing leadership. I don't think
it didn't happen in Paris, Steve. So it's just a sparkling insurrection.
Like, Rand Paul still isn't acknowledging Joe Biden as having won the election. Like, the Republicans are digging in on this, and the Democrats are capitulating in exactly the most harmful way they can.
Well, the thing is, too, as much as I agree with the impeachment, it is going to slow down Joe Biden's processes, because he's going boom, 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 boom.
Well, guess what? Work is hard. Work is hard. And
that's why they get paid the big bucks.
And to jump on what Malt is saying, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I think some of them should stop eating paint.
Yep.
Or whatever they're on.
Yeah.
I don't think it's all necessarily paint. But that being said, there was more stuff happening with police officers and vehicles and stuff.
Ugh.
So I guess Tacoma. You want to talk about Tacoma?
Yes, I do.
I first saw the video on social media, and then I went around looking for articles about it. And I think one of them, the Seattle Times has a decent description of what happened. And according to the Seattle Times, there was a crowd of people gathering for basically street racing and that sort of stuff, dragging, and apparently this is a weekly thing, and someone called the police because they're obstructing traffic. Now, I don't know how exactly the situation escalated, but a bunch of people surrounded the police car, started slapping on it. Police officer puts the sirens on, he puts the lights on, they're still pounding away at the car, so he pulls forward and runs over them. And I mean, not just knocks them out of the way, but at one point in the clip, you see the body of the vehicle raise up because it is driving over someone and flop down and then flop back down. I mean, it's, for one, from a officer, I mean, it's a shitty thing to have happened, but, I'm just speaking for myself. When you stand when you're blocking a police vehicle, there is, you can have the mindset of, well, they're really not going to run me over, but you are kind of taking the risk that, that could happen. I mean, a big crowd, I don't know if this was a case of someone losing their, panicking or whatever. But I guess it's been referred out for further investigation, and we'll see what happens.
Right, but police are supposed to be paid to be calm in situations. I mean,
yeah, that's a fair statement.
Right. I mean, it's wrong if someone drives over someone else, and just because you're a police officer doesn't mean that it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, we need to hold them to a higher standard. At the same time, they come with big boomsticks, and we don't want to lose those to the general public either.
I'm pretty sure isn't the glass in police cars bulletproof?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
And even
I don't think so.
Yeah, typically not. And besides, even most cars, you can shoot through most vehicles. It's just behind the engine in which it would stop some of the higher calibers. That being said, because it's a big block of steel. But as far as those cars go, If he was responding to a situation, how did he get surrounded? Is my question. But I guess we have to wait until more video footage comes out or whatnot. But that's definitely something that we should be following into. And my thoughts and prayers definitely go out to the families of those who lost their loved ones in that incident.
Well, I mean,
Hopefully they haven't lost. They're not dead. Hopefully they're not dead yet.
yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if the cruiser was equipped with a dash cam or the officer was equipped with a body cam. And there's presumably more than one recording of it that someone took with a smartphone. But yeah, it will take sorting.
But in better news, Ajit Pai is no longer on the Federal Communications Commission, so we can all rejoice now.
Yeah, motherfucker.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on with that. I think another thing that their FCC is really pushing for is to give more the fight to loosen up regulations so that bigger conglomerates can own more. So even with that win, the FCC is pushing to let monopolies be that much bigger.
Yeah, I don't know. There's one of the things I've heard some people bemoaning, and on the conservative side, is they don't, the Republican Party seems to be really unhappy with the way the whole coup thing was covered, and there's, I've seen ruminations that they'd like to bring back the fairness doctrine. You guys remember the fairness doctrine? So
That Reagan got rid of.
That Reagan got rid of.
I'm a bit of a layman. Could you give me the quick notes?
The basic gist of it was if you have someone giving a point of view on like a public television on a television station or radio station, you have to give equal time to someone with the opposing view. So this would be it would be a scenario where you might have, say, an interview and there's a person from the R party and a person from the D party and maybe a person from some other party, and you get different viewpoints. But typically a lot of our major media is they just focus on one side at a time. And this was a law for quite a while, and as you said, Reagan got rid of it, and it lingered around, I believe, until the early 90s. At least in some sense, I worked in radio in the 90s, and there was a situation where one of our DJs was running for a local office, and the general manager was really concerned that, well, hey, if he's on the air, do we have to give equal time to such and such? But it's kind of, you have to, I think the big lesson in this, and it applies in more areas, but when you push for policies that you think will benefit your side to the detriment of the other side, you really should think about what's going to happen if things end up getting flipped at some point.
Eventually they do.
The Republican playbook is then to immediately in the lame duck session rat fuck the incoming incoming administration. Like Wisconsin famously got busted for basically what were like hamstringing Scott Brown's replacement. I forget the specifics.
Yeah, changing the laws to reduce the power of the governor when it wasn't a Republican governor. Massachusetts did things like that. When Kennedy died, remember they changed the law that said the governor could appoint his temporary replacement, and instead said the legislature could do it.
To make this nerdy analog, Republicans metagame. the political system to a degree like that the Democrats just seem to refuse to do. And that always strikes me as fairly interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that the Democrats they have 50 seats in the Senate and the Republicans have 50 seats. Well, they got 48 seats in the Senate and 2 independents and who are siding with the Democrats, and then the Republicans have 50 seats. And of course, Vice President Harris is the tiebreaker in that case. So they're going to set it up so that the committees are 50-50. And if Trump had won and the Democrats had still been able to get the 2 seats in Georgia, then the Republicans would have been like, oh no, the committees are definitely majority Republican. Yeah. And it's just, this whole bipartisanship, like literally we have not been bipartisan since 1994 with the Contract on America. I don't know. I just don't understand what fantasy world they live in. But
how would you guys? I'm sorry. How would you guys feel about getting rid of the filibuster? What are your thoughts?
Fuck it.
Burn it.
Honestly, we should force our government to. I'm not one for speeding up government normally, but I think the filibuster is just kind of a waste of everyone's time. Mm-hmm. Why are you going to sit there and continually fight something? If the laws are good, then just go with the laws. But if they're not good, then why are you deciding on trying to come up with terrible laws?
So, in local government, we have, motions to terminate debate, which require a supermajority to pass. This is, like town meeting in Massachusetts. But, the fact of the matter, basically whether you terminate debate or not, you're still limiting speakers to, 7 minutes or, I could see the filibuster as being a useful tool if people actually had to keep talking through the entire thing. If you want to read the phone book, sure, go ahead and read the phone book, but you're going to stand there and read the damn phone book.
I was under the impression that you have to actually read. You can't just stand up there and waste people's time by not using your time.
No, the motion to terminate debate does not require debate to actually be taking place. At least that's my understanding.
I guess I'm less actually, and now that I think about it, my visceral reaction was more to the 60 votes that you would need to pass legislation, mm-hmm. which, you look at the Senate and it's already set up so that small states have a disproportionate impact. Why do we need to give them an even more disproportionate impact? Have it as a simple majority. I'm less concerned about the filibuster because, to be honest, you just vote, and if people want to bring the question to a vote, they will. But the whole you require 60 votes in order to pass legislation is just ludicrous.
Yeah, it's we need DC statehood. We need Puerto Rican statehood. We need more reliably blue seats because the game is rigged against us, and Democrats refuse to do any unrigging.
Actually, I'm sort of curious to see how living in a high-cost coastal city like Boston, I do know folks who move out occasionally, and I know this is happening in other areas. If you think about it, it doesn't take that many people to move to a rural state to change the political composition.
Let's take New Hampshire.
So, well, no, you take a state like with a bit, big state, but not a lot of people on it. So, say Montana, right? So, I'll bet you if Dorchester just decided to pick up and move to Montana, it would be a blue state.
We could call it Little Massachusetts.
I'm sure they'd love
Isn't that Maine?
or Southern New Hampshire. they also call that Little Massachusetts.
I swear that there's at least one town in Montana which is mostly a white supremacist compound.
I'm sure.
Just
Are you thinking
one?
Idaho?
I'm probably also thinking of Idaho
Yeah.
And Oregon.
and Oregon. Yeah.
East Oregon.
If you're talking about yourself in Oregon, is it origami?
No.
Oh.
I'm calling the police. I'm telling them what you're doing.
Oh, they'll run me over.
You don't rat out fellow pirates.
Otherwise, you'll be forced to walk the plank.
Aye.
I'll do that for fun.
But with those terrible jokes, I think that we're going to ask you to give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Did we have any questions from the audience tonight?
Not today, but we always look forward to people's questions. If we don't get to them if we don't answer them in the current episode, which we try to do, we answer them in the next one. So,
Well, that being said, definitely like, share, and subscribe. And you know that we will always be out there to support you, as we always do. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this evening, and I hope that you have a very piratey week.
you too. Thanks, folks. Bye.